Hello everyone, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2. Welcome. Today I have a tutorial for you how to make a soft cover journal. I'll be showing you two different ways of making a soft cover. A soft cover is made out of fabric and there's going to be a little bit of stiffening inside of there, and it's got raw edges, so we're going to be making a couple of those. My granddaughter and I have been working on embroidery together, and so I've made, while she's working on hers, I make my own things. And so all of a sudden I found myself with 4 embroidered pieces. Some are just thread and some have fabric incorporated in the design. So I had a couple pieces here that I had done, and I thought, what am I going to do with these? Except I kind of thought of journal covers, and that's why I made the pieces like this long. So like a little journal cover. This one has fabric, and then this one is just thread. So I've got several pieces I need to work up into some project, and so that's what I'm going to do today. So this one, you can tell I've started already. I sewed some buttons on there, and I've done a little top stitching. So that's going to be the first one we'll work on, but I wanted to show you this one a little bit. Of course, it doesn't have pages yet, but it's going to be a small chunky. It's about 4 by 4, and the spine is, I don't know, I think it's more than 2 inches if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's about 2 1/4, about 2 1/4 inches. So it's going to be nice and big and chunky. So we'll talk about this is going to be a different method than this one. So this one we're going to start with first, and then I'll move on to this one. First of all, I wanted to show you another journal that it has a soft cover. Like I said, I haven't made one for a long time, and so I thought this would be a great opportunity to get going on one again. But this is a journal swap I had with Dawn from the Book Vandal shop, and it's a beautiful, beautiful journal. This one that I will be making out of this is going to be a similar cover to this one, a similar method to this one, but this one is a little different. But look at how beautiful that is. So definitely can be any style you want to, but it has batting and the raw edges. She's got a zigzag stitch around the outside edge. It's just beautiful, so I wanted to show you that. She does use cardstock as sort of a stiffener for hers, but you can see how flexible it is. It's very soft, and I just love it. We aren't going to be using cardstock. Oh, she also reinforced her spine. I can tell there's a little bit of chipboard in there. So this is definitely a separate piece. Then the stiffening inside is different on the spine than it is on the front and back covers. All right, so let's see. The way I'm going to do it, I did experiment a little bit because I couldn't figure out, did I want to just do batting? So I just sewed a couple pieces together. This is some interfacing that I have left over from making a t-shirt quilt that I had made. I don't know where my other little samples are, but I had sewn together lots of different layers, trying to figure out how flexible, how stiff, you know, that kind of thing. This is a real stiff interfacing, and it's fusible, but I just don't care for it. It's not flexible, so you can see how it actually sort of cracks when you bend it, so I wasn't too happy with that. But I have seen people use this successfully, but I don't know, it just wasn't making me happy. So anyway, I did a little experimenting, and this is what I came up with. I came up with using fabric on the cover, backing that with interfacing, which I've already ironed on here. So the interfacing I'm using is Shapeflex 101, but any interfacing that you feel, this is totally up to you. It's going to be your cover, your project, and some of you may like things more stiff, some may like it more soft, and so it's totally up to you. I'm sort of in the middle road on this, and I just sort of came up with this layering here. So this is Shapeflex. It's like a fabric, a loosely woven fabric, and then it has a fusible side. So that's what I've been using, but use what you have, use what you like. But I thought I'd let you know what I used. So I did iron that onto the back of the cover, on the back side of the cover fabric. So this is a pieced, I had some fabric squares and some charm squares, and I just cut them apart a little bit and sewed them back together and made a little pattern here. But you definitely can use a solid piece of fabric, just some beautiful fabric that you love, that you've had around for a while and you want to use. Now, the cover Dawn made here, it's kind of a neutral, and then she embellished it with paper and more layers of fabric here. So you can make it look different. Even if your fabric isn't fancy, you can definitely decorate the front and make it into something beautiful like that. This one, these kind of sort of have more of a mid-century feel to them. Almost all of them. The bee one obviously is not, but kind of all these have that style. So anyway, I pieced this together just real quick. It's not much at all. And then I backed it with the Shape Flex. Okay, and then I decided I'm going to put 2 layers of batting. So my batting that I have on hand, I didn't buy anything special, but the batting I have on hand is very thin, so you can see how thin that is. It's not the real puffy kind. That's just what I had. I kind of prefer working with that for projects that I do. So I'm using 2 layers of that. So now I have that. And then will come the backing, or the inside cover. So this is the piece I'm using with the thread. So this is a pincushion fabric that I had. This is beautiful fabric. It's like I don't know what you'd call it, but it's like canvas in a way. I'm sure there's a word that's escaping me right now, but it is like a canvas. It's so cute. What drives me a little crazy though is that on the grain of the fabric, where I've torn it and it should be straight across grain, the pin cushions are off. So like this one is higher, this one is lower. It's driving me a little bit crazy. So I'm hoping I can center this enough so that it sort of lines up. But if I take a straight ruler and try to go across, it still doesn't work. It's just they seem to be offset and more diagonally oriented, so it's driving my OCD self a little bit crazy, but we'll work with that. I just think it's cute. So what I did was I backed that. Now this is super big, mostly because I could not, get those pin cushions lined up. So it is a little bit big, but I did iron on some more of that interfacing. So in other words, I've got fabric, interfacing, 2 layers of thin batting, interfacing, and then my outside fabric. And the fusible part of that interfacing actually makes it a tiny bit stiffer, more firm, more stable, and so I really like that. In fact, is when you embroider, like, I kind of forgot you're supposed to stabilize it before you embroider, so I didn't do that on this piece, but I did sew that interfacing onwards, which gives it a nice stable piece that I can now use for the cover. All right, so that's my plan to make this. I used that same layering on this one, even though it's a little bit of a different technique, and I'll show you that later. But and I do like it. I think it's soft, but it's a little bit firm, and so I kind of like that. All right, so what I had to do, this is going to be like a tall skinny, so it's going to be like this. And like I said, I cut that really big, but my plan is to have a 2-inch spine, so it's gonna be about like so. Oops, like so. And then this will be more a tall skinny. So this is approximately 4.5. Is that right? Yeah, it's approximately 4.5 inches wide, and then it's about 7 inches tall. Yeah, 7 inches tall. So it's going to be more of a tall skinny with a 2-inch spine. I think that'll be lots of fun. And so since it's going to kind of look like this, I'll show you my thought process on this. So this I made into a giant square because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And since I decided on this tall skinny, I cut it in a rectangle so it's taller. And then I laid it on there, kind of auditioning it to see. That's how I picked these colors, is because of the thread on here. And I thought, well, this background is pretty busy. I think it looks okay by itself, but then I thought I'd put a darker color, more of a solid color underneath, and then put this on top. It gives it a little bit more interest as well. And then I think I'm going to sew, I'm going to sew that on there like this. So I think that'll be my cover. And I might put a tassel on it later or something like that, but I think that'll be pretty good. This is a little bit big too, because once I get these layers sewn together, I'm going to be trimming a little bit. So this is going to shrink down even just slightly more. But no, I was just talking to my sister Cindy on the phone. I said, you know what? I top stitched this already. So what I should have done is put this on here, stitched it, you know, to the front like this before, and then top stitched it actually onto the cover. And I didn't do that. So actually what I'm going to do, I could glue this on with Fabri-Tac and I think that would be fine, but I really think I should sew this onto the cover since this is soft and flexible and will be used bending and stuff. I think I will sew this on. So I will be back. I'm gonna either cut a new piece of this, or I will just remove this top stitching and this top stitching and the buttons. Anyway, so yeah, so that was my mistake. I just got too carried away, but I'll be back in a minute. And when I come back, this will be sewn directly onto this front cover. I'll make sure that I measure correctly with a 2-inch spine and my side to side. And top to bottom, we'll make sure it's all lined up. I'm going to top stitch and I'll be back. All right, so I'm done sewing this on. I sewed the background piece on first, and then I sewed the embroidered piece on top of that. So I sewed them on separately, and so you can see on, oh, it's a white thread, sorry you can't see it that well, but I sewed each of those on that way. Before I sewed them on, I don't remember if I mentioned it, I backed that with my fusible interfacing as well. So each one of these pieces had interfacing in the back of it, and that stabilized the fabric, you know, so it's easier to sew and easier to stay in place. A couple of pointers. So the interfacing I think is an excellent idea. Also, I used, before I stitched, I lined it up carefully, and then I used a few dots of Fabri-Tac and kind of smoothed them out so they were it was more of a thin layer. So I did that on the back of this background piece, and then lined it up, put it down, sewed, did the same thing with this. I tacked it down. I guess that's a good way to put it with this Fabri-Tac. So just a thin layer behind here, and press that down. Of course you have to let it dry a bit too, and then top stitched on that. So that using the Fabri-Tac, gluing it in place actually keeps it stable, no shifting, so it makes it super easy to work with. And also another tip too with this Fabri-Tac is to put a dot for each of the buttons and let it dry, and that'll keep the buttons in place. It'll keep them perfectly lined up the way you want it. And the holes, I don't know if it bothers you, but like if the holes are facing different directions, sometimes that can be a little personal preference, obviously, but I kind of like mine facing the same way, and so that keeps the buttons exactly where I want them. It's not a permanent solution for buttons, but it keeps it in place while you sew it in. So I used a little bit of embroidery thread and sewed those on. So that is what my cover looks like. Okay, and then, so another thing, I don't know if you've heard of these friction pens. I've heard of them in the fabric world, but haven't ever purchased one. Didn't exactly know how they work, but I know they're supposed to be so great and everything. Well, somebody at my work told me about these friction pens for the office, and they're erasable pens. I'm like, well, you can't go wrong with that. What a perfect idea. They come in all kinds of colors. And so I bought these for my house, but then I started thinking about it. I'm like, I wonder if there's any difference between the friction fabric pen and the friction pen. Since it's erasable, I know it must be a different formula of ink. So I did some experimenting, and these are amazing. Like, all you have to do is hit it. If you have to mark the outside of your fabric, like I did here, I did this so that I can tell where my spine was going to be, so I could center my decoration here. I marked that where my spine is going to be, and so my marking is on the outside. And so in my experimentation, I grabbed a little piece, experimented. All you have to do is hit it, like just touch it with a hot iron, and the ink disappears. How cool is that? It's like mind blown. I totally love these pens. So that's another great hint. If you have to mark outside, on the outside of any fabric piece, it'll completely disappear with with a little bit of heat. Also, they erase off of paper, so they're amazing, and I'm totally in love with those. So a couple of hints there. So my spine is 2 1/4 inches. I have a flexible piece of chipboard that I'm going to use behind that, and I'm going to just glue that into place. So this interfacing also makes it very nice for gluing things on, because the glue is not going to seep as easily onto the front of my book cover there. So this is just some Easter egg box. We're going to use this tan side as the back. So I am gluing this in, stabilizing it to the front cover, and just a thin layer will keep it nicely. Okay, so I had exactly 2 1/4 inches wide. I'm going to leave it at about 1/4 of an inch from the top, 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. That's the way I cut it. So now we'll have a definite spine and a definite fold. Okay, so that's great. The next step is to put down our batting, 1 layer at a time here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to like put dots of this Fabri-Tac all over the place, and then sort of smear it with my finger so that there aren't any giant globs. Now this will be sewn as a cover, so it's going to have stitching all around, but we still want to make sure that the layers are all sort of melded together into one sandwich. So that's why I'm going to use a little bit of glue to keep these together. Center it on here. I tried to make it so that and it will be, because we're still going to need to trim the edges a little bit. I kind of wanted to, so this is what I used on the front cover. The background, this teal color here, it's not pinking shears, it's this wavy, it's sort of, let's see, wave pinking it's called. So the wave pinking blade on my rotary cutter, which I bought so many years ago. I did some polar fleece things, and all I did was do the edges with those scissors, or that rotary scissor, and it was just amazing. It just it went really well. So that's my plan for this cover, is to do the edges in this once I'm all done here. Okay, so we're getting that nice and smooth. Could even give this a little bit of a press. Of course, I lose my lines, but I don't need those anymore either, so I'm just holding it up to make sure that no big puckers or anything like that. I'm gonna sew all the way around the outside edge, so this spine and all the stuff will be enclosed in this quilt sandwich that we're making here. Same thing on this one. And then the same thing on the inside cover fabric. I want to get my sleeve in the glue there. And I'm gluing it just to stabilize it. It doesn't have to be totally covered in glue, just a nice layer where you know they're gonna hold together. And it is kind of nice that this is a little bit thicker fabric too, but with this interfacing I'm not worried too much about the glue seeping through. And like I said, there are many ways to make fabric covers. Some people will just use the batting and the fabric, and that's, you know, that's completely up to you. All kinds of different methods can be used in all of our book covers, you know. All right, making sure I've got the right side up. This one is a little trickier. Like I said, the pattern just doesn't make me very happy. So, okay, so I'm just going to do it this way. I tried to make the interfacing sort of centered on here where I thought it might look the best. So we'll see. So as you can see, definitely going to trim this. The fact is, I'm trying to decide, make sure this is nice and flat as you can get it. You may like just hit it with an iron a little bit, that'll help. I'm trying to decide if I should top stitch first or trim first. I think I might actually top stitch first and then trim later. So I'm going to top stitch probably 3/8 of an inch down, and that will give me enough room to actually put in a little zigzag here and, you know, trim off the excess. So I'm going to hit this with an iron real quick. I don't need these marking lines anymore. So I'm going to hit this with an iron, the marking lines will disappear, and then I'm ensured that it's nice and flat. So I'll be back after I stitch the outside edge. The other thing I'm going to do too is to sew on each side of the spine, little chipboard thing that I have in there, and that way it'll sort of aid in just helping that to bend more easily. Alright, so this is the way it turned out. Nice and easy to fold that, and the inside like this. And I have to say, look at how these lined up. So I'm looking at the red ones. It's amazing to me because I could not get it to come out previously. So anyway, that worked out. And this is how the front looks, nice and puffy, nice and soft, and yet a little bit stable. So, and I used red, as you can see. And so the next thing I'm going to do is get my acrylic ruler. I'm not going to do it right here right now. I'll go off camera to do this, but I'm going to hold this up, make sure that I'm lined up evenly with the spine, with the top, with the bottom, and then without cutting into my top stitching here, right, without cutting into that, I'm going to hold the ruler a little bit away from that and then just trim this all up, and hopefully I'll have a nice sort of zigzag edge with my wave pinking rotary cutter blade. So I'll be back. All right, all set. Here's my cover, ready to sew those signatures directly into the spine. It's nice and reinforced with layers of interfacing fabric, batting, chipboard, so it's good to go for that. Perfect. And I had to really press down on that ruler to get the edges cut, but they came out really well. Very happy with it. And you can glue like paper pockets and stuff directly onto the inside front and back cover. You can treat it now just like a regular cover. I might put an eyelet with, that would be cute, I think, to put eyelet in the front and back covers and then make like a silk or a fabric tie on the side here. Maybe put a dangle or like a bead dangle, charm dangle, or maybe a tassel. Anyway, so this is good to go. This is ready to go, and very exciting. So the next method won't be quite as involved as that because a lot of the things are going to be the same. But I'm going to show you how to make a separate spine from the front and back covers, and I will do that. Let's see, which one should I do? I think I'll do that with the B one here. So I'm going to gather up some supplies, and pre-cut it. I might keep this book actually the exact size as this fabric. I think that'll be fun. All right, so I'm going to gather some more things, and we will get going with another method for the fabric cover. And I hope you're enjoying this, and I'll be back in just a minute. All right, I am back. I also wanted to just mention a few more things about this soft cover. Use what you have. If you don't have the fancy like tool that I had there to just go ahead and trim those edges, you could definitely just cut. If you have pinking shears, just cut with those. Regular scissors, cut with those. It does not have to be a zigzag look to it. In fact, this is sort of half and half. This is just rough, torn edges here, and this does have a little bit of a zigzag on here when I was trimming. So, and then some of the zigzag, like right here, it's really hard to see, but see that tiny zigzag? I would love to have some scissors that size that actually work, but that is just from the manufacturer. So that was the edge of the fabric from the manufacturer. So this one is kind of a mixture of just about everything, but it's got the raw edges, and you can finish those off however you like. The other thing I wanted to mention, the nature of these types where you're sewing two pieces of fabric front and back together and then folding it with a spine. If we didn't have a definite spine, if it was just a rounded spine, that might act a little different, but I don't think it would be all that different now that I think about it. But all I wanted to say is that when you have this outside piece has to wrap around and this inside piece wraps toward itself, this is going to buckle a little bit. It's just the nature of the way that goes. Yeah, this is one thing you have to be careful of when you're making either file folder or paper type covers as well. You have to be very conscious of the fact that when you just glue two straight things together and then try to fold it, there is a difference in the tension of the inside paper and the outside paper. So I just wanted to mention that. So this one does have a little buckling in the fabric. You can probably see it kind of right in these areas toward the spine. And that's just natural, and that's the way it's going to be. In fact, I think fabric covers are awesome that way. How they're like a soft pillow and just squishy and bendy, and it's just the way it is. And since this is a small journal, it's not really that big of a deal either. So, but there is a little bit of poofiness that's going to happen in certain areas when you have the cover that's the same size as the inside cover. So I just wanted to mention that. It's natural, but especially with, like I said, especially with the fabric, I think it's a lot of fun. All right, I'm back. I'm done cutting, deciding, all that. So here is my embroidered piece. I cut it down to fit on this 5-inch square. And I did back it already with interfacing. So I have that plus interfacing. And once I get the interfacing on the back of this cover piece, then I will go ahead and top stitch it on. Alrighty, so I've got two covers, front back cover, inside front back cover here. I have the outside spine. Where did I put it? Here it is. So the the outside spine is this one here. So that's gonna sort of look like this. And the inside spine will be this one, which is sort of a reverse of this. It's just a light yellow. All right, and then, so that's it for fabric. For each cover piece, you'll need, at least the way I'm showing you, the way I'm making it anyway. Like I said before, this is just a springboard for you, whatever you prefer. But this interfacing will get ironed onto here, as I mentioned already. I have the 2 layers of thin batting, and then this will be on the back of that. So that will be a sandwich after this is sewn on, of course. So that'll be a sandwich. You don't have to sew. This is the spine area, so you don't have to sew that at all. So it will be just the outside 3 edges. Same with this. I've got interfacing. So this fabric is sideways. If you have directional fabric, beware. This is directional fabric. So anyway, so that will get ironed onto there. 2 layers of the batting, which of course, remember we did the like real thin glue spots to glue that on. Real thin glue spots to glue that on. And then, ooh, this should have interfacing too. So I'll need to cut those two more pieces of interfacing for the inside covers. So that interfacing, a little bit of glue spots, thin down, and then that'll get glued on. So that will be like this. You'll top stitch around the outside edge once it's dry. Just the 3 outside edges, and then the spine area will be open. All right, so I think I'll do that right now, and then I'll be back, and I will not forget to put interfacing on the back of the inside cover as well. So in this project, the way I'm doing it anyway, interfacing goes on the back of all of the fabric pieces. It will be on the spine pieces as well, the inside and the outside. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to do these covers. I'll be back and show you what those look like. Very important part too, I wanted to mention. So the batting should be cut about a 1/2 inch smaller. Whoops, and I have it on the wrong side. So let me unglue that real quick. At the spine edge. So I have appliqued this on. I put my interfacing on already, and then I applique it straight on. So the batting should be about a 1/2 inch shorter than the rest of the pieces. Like you can do the interfacing, you can do the fabric longer, but just the batting, about a 1/2 inch on the spine side. So then when I put this together, my batting on this edge will be shorter. So totally forgot that, but I thought that was an important part of when I put this together. That was an important piece, so I didn't want to forget to tell you that. Okay, I want to make sure that we're getting good directions in for you here. So I prepared, so far, I went ahead and sewed this onto the cover, and I fused the interfacing on that, and then sewed that on. So that's ready. And then I did the little dotting of glue and the spreading of glue and put the 2 layers of batting. So that's that. Did the same thing with this, except there's no applique on the front. Left about a 1/2 inch on the spine edge that won't have the batting. So the batting is a little shorter on the spine edge. I'm actually gonna, I just dropped my scissors. I'm actually gonna trim this one off just a tiny bit more. Well, the fact that it's crooked doesn't bother me, but I just want to make sure that I have enough here to sew. All right. So spine edge batting is shorter, and so there's that. Now I have the interfacing on the back cover. So now, just want to make sure that I'm getting you good directions and that you can follow what I'm doing here. Now I'm going to dot the glue on here. This is the back cover, inside back cover. Spread that out just a tiny bit. Line up the edges and push down on that. So now we have basically our quilt sandwich, and so that will be the way we do this back side as well. This glue is just to keep everything from shifting, and I feel like it's an important step. But like I said, if you think I'm going overboard on any of these steps, absolutely just do it the way you feel is right. Okay, so line that up and press that down. Okay, so when this is dry now, I will top stitch or sew the sandwich together around the 3 outside edges. These 3 outside edges. Oops, wasn't quite in frame there, so it's these 3 and these 3, and this is where our spine is going to be here. Okay, so when this is dry and I have a chance to, I will go ahead and do this. I also kind of like to use a little bit of a bigger stitch. The stitches are pretty close together on this top stitching here, but when I'm sewing this many layers together, I kind of like to have a little bit of a bigger stitch. So that's just something I do, but it's definitely up to you. But I will be back when that's done. I could do a zigzag stitch at this point, which maybe I'll do, or a straight stitch. Either way I think would be super cute, so I'll be back again. Okay, so this is what we have. I did do a zigzag stitch on that, and I left those edges raw because we don't need to sew that quite yet. I'll show you in the next step, and there's the inside cover. So now we've got some nice poofy, oh my goodness, you could make coasters, right? Anyway, so here's our front back cover. So I went ahead and put interfacing on the inside spine, and I put interfacing and 1 layer of batting on the outside spine. So next is the fun part. So it is, no, seriously, it is. I didn't mean to laugh like that. So we are going to glue just to stabilize, right? We're going to glue this piece, this unit, onto the front and back cover. I'm going to be using lines on my, if you don't have lines, just get a straight edge of some kind. I'm going to line this up, front and back cover, and make sure that spine, and it's all nice and flat this way, so that when we put the book cover together, it's all even without being skewed at all. And looks like I need to clean off my glue, getting that stage where it's glopping over the top. Okay, okay, so, and it doesn't need to be, this is, you know, lightly glued, right? But it doesn't need to be like all layers glued on here. Just glue this to the edges, and like I said earlier, I'm gonna overlap this by about 1/2 inch onto the cover. So, and it doesn't have to be exact. It should be pretty close though, because I've already cut my spine piece out. I'm just going to do one side at a time. You don't have to thin that out too much. Just a nice bead of glue, not super globby, but nice bead of glue. Overlap it about 1/2 inch. So I'm actually going to put this so that it's a 1/2 inch in between this line. Sorry, once again, out of frame. I'm going to line this up to my mat and make sure that it's about 1/2 inch or halfway in between this line and this line. That'll give me my 1/2 inch that I'm looking for here to overlap. Okay, so line that up and then line up that spine piece. And my spine is just like 1/8 of an inch taller on the top and the bottom, or hangs over a little bit on the top and the bottom about 1/8 of an inch, because I like to have it a little fringy. So trying to make sure I get that even top to bottom. Alright, and then I'm going to flip this over and make sure it looks good on the other side, which does. Okay. Okay, back to lining it up again. I'm going to line up my cover. And then I think I'm going to, you could do it on this edge too, but I think I'm going to keep my glue onto the batting here. But either way is fine. We're just making it a little bit more stable so we can sew without shifting. So once again, I'm going to line that up. And put that edge about halfway in between the two vertical lines. That's about a 1/2 inch, eyeballing it. And then I lay this down, making sure everything is in a straight line. But like I said, this does overlap a little bit. But the front and back cover bottom, in this case, should be nice and even. Okay. So the next part, after this dries, is to sew around this rectangle. So I'm going to sew around this rectangle. Alright, so it will catch in that top stitching that we do on this side will catch in the raw edges of the inside cover here, and it'll just come right across and catch in this batting and the spine piece. So once again, just top stitch around 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, whatever you decide. It can't be too much bigger than that, because then you won't catch in this edge here. But about 1/4 of an inch all the way around on this rectangle, and then we'll get to the next step, which is really close to the end. All right, spine's on. Gonna be super cute, little chunky and fun. I did put a double stitch. You can probably see that there. I put a double stitch all the way around, and it caught in the edges there. It turned out really well. I'm happy with that. So at this point now, you could have tried to actually sew this on if you want just a soft spine. However, I wanted a little bit more structure, so there are a couple of ways you could have finished this off, right? You can use it just like this. And you could try to line it up, glue it, make sure it's secure, and then do your rectangle on here and have just a 100% soft spine. You could do that. Or you can sew it like this, and then if you're unsure if this was going to be straight, you can just go ahead now and glue this on. Or what I'm going to do is put a little bit of structure in here. So this one does have a little structure. I used a piece of chipboard that's a little heavier than this one. This one is flexible. In fact, this is the same Easter egg packaging I used on this one. See how that one is flexible? Which I really like the idea of that one. This one is a little bit more rigid. That's actually not too easy to bend. It will bend a little, as you can see there, but it's a little bit more structured, and so that's an option, if you want it that way. This is very flexible. I like it. It's almost like maybe 2 file folders put together, or file folder and cardstock put together. I'm not sure exactly how you could compare it, but it's very flexible. I like it. I like it a lot. And like some cereal boxes and different packaging. Some are stiffer than others, and so that's kind of what I used for both of these things here. We've got batting, interfacing. It's not going to show, so I put the glue on that side. I'm going to just center this, and I've got room, as you can see, I've got room on both sides for the hinge, right? But this will make it a little stable. And then I have the interfacing on here already. And what I think I'm going to do is top stitch around this in a rectangle, just like we did on the other one. Maybe cut it down a little bit too. It looks like it's a little too long. So I'm going to cut this down a tiny bit, top stitch it just as this, and then I'm going to glue this down, and I'll show you how to do that too. All right, done with this. Another reason why I love putting interfacing on here is that if you're top stitching, you've got 2 layers to work with, whereas 1 layer sometimes gets either sucked down into the machine or not quite as easy to work with. So that's another reason why I like that. But so that's ready to go. Now all we're going to do is basically just glue it in. And then when it comes to the creases, we'll have to just make sure to fold those in nice and tight with a bone folder or a straight edge of some kind. Okay, I'm going to thin this glue out a little bit with my finger. And these edges do have a tendency to poke up, so I tried to put some glue kind of in the layers and just smooshed it together. All right, so this just center, top to bottom, side to side. I think that's pretty good. All right, so then what we're gonna need to do so it doesn't buckle as much like it is right there, right, is smooth this out with a bone folder. Make sure that's nice and flat, and then really crease the side of your spine piece, your spine reinforcement that you have inside of there if you're using the same method. I've got that chipboard in there, so make sure that's creased down. That will help it lay flat. It is not laying flat right here, so I'm gonna re-glue this right here. It might actually, let's see. Hopefully that'll lay flat. If there's a little pucker, that is really nothing to worry about either. So really flatten it out, crease that. Really, what you're not really creasing it because it's fabric, right? But what you're doing is making sure the glue adheres and that the fabric is pulled up a little bit so you don't have any tension where the actual fold is. Okay, so I always miss the corners. Get the corners. But it's kind of nice to do it at the end too, because then you're getting an exact sort of fit here. Always the corners for me, but that works out just fine. That's pretty good. This one needs redoing. Just one tiny little dot. There we go. All right, and I think we are done. Let's open it up and find out. Good. And now there's not as much tension on the lining fabrics, because the lining fabric is 2 separate pieces, separate piece from our spine. This is another thing I do too, is just fold it right at the chipboard, right on the chipboard edges. Just fold it right over. Give it a burnish there too. You could even take a little bit of an iron to this and make it the fold more creased, more pronounced. But I'll just do this for now, and there we have it. So there's our third. It still puckers up for me right there, and I think it might have to do with the top stitching and my my interfacing maybe. So I might be able to fix that by taking out the stitching and redoing it, but I'm not too worried about it actually. I think this is so fun. So this is 2 methods. These ones we did on camera. This one I did off camera. So lots of fun with fabric and batting and just fun and puffy journal covers. I hope you enjoyed this. These are ready now for putting some pages together and sewing them directly into the spine. So perfect fun project, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we have a Facebook group, we have an Etsy shop and Instagram account as well, so please help us out if you can. We would love to see you at any one of those places. So take care, everybody, and we will catch you in the next video. Goodbye.